You only get one chance to make a good first impression, and you might not realize this, but if you're making a game in Unity, there are 3 things you can do the minute the player opens the game to give them a better first impression than 99% of the other Unity games on the market. And those 3 things are opening your game into an empty scene, avoiding Unity splash screen entirely and rolling your own, and giving life to your title screen. These might seem like 3 relatively innocuous details, but I think you'd be surprised just how much of a difference these changes can make to your game and help subtly elevate it in your players' minds from feeling like a cheap indie game and into a polished, complete product. Let me show you what I mean. I built out a demo scene here. Notice that when I open it, not only does the Unity player take a few seconds to start, but it also boots into the Unity splash screen while it's still loading up. It forces your OS into a loading state with the spinny wheel on the cursor here, so Unity is essentially hiding the initial scene loading behind the splash screen and behind your branding. In a small demo scene like this that starts up in a few seconds, it's not too bad, sure, but in a larger project or on a less performant machine, this startup time can be more dragged out or even lock the system while it's loading, and the player is stuck staring at a boring boilerplate screen while waiting for their machine to respond. Let's take a look at what happens when we remove the splash screen. When I open the demo this time, we hang on our user's desktop until the Unity player is ready to open the scene. While technically the game is taking longer to open, it feels better because the user is already expecting the OS to be starting the game up in the background. But we can take this even further and make our game start up even more responsive. You see, when Unity player is starting and loading into your initial scene, not only does this scene and all of its scripts have to load, but any specific initializations of scripts will take place before the player opens. So if the scene you're trying to open is asset heavy with lots of scripts or objects that need to manage themselves on initialization, then just getting the Unity player to open can be a task in and of itself. As a general rule of thumb, loading into an empty scene or a scene with all of its game objects turned off is a much faster alternative. I've made another build here, but as you can see this time around, I've built just a single empty scene, and notice how much faster it opens. While the time to open into a scene with lots of assets in it will scale depending on its size and complexity, opening an empty scene is always this fast. So that's why you want to boot your game into an empty startup scene, disable the Unity splash, and you'll basically be able to open your game the moment you click it, or at the very least, the player won't be thinking poorly of your game while they sit on a boring Unity logo waiting for assets to load. And this is why I suggest rolling your own splash screen. Not only is it a relatively trivial thing to do, but it also gives you a lot more control than the default static image thing that Unity runs by default. Before we continue, I'd like to take a quick second to thank the sponsor of this video, Hawkeye. Whether it's Unity, Unreal, or your own codebase, you'll know that as the scale of a project grows, it can become harder and harder to find the things that you're looking for. If you often ask, where is this used? What is this connected to? Or did I leave a reference to this somewhere? Hawkeye is designed to make answering those questions much easier. Hawkeye gives you instant, real-time search across your project, so instead of waiting on searches or digging through folders, you get real-time results as you type across projects with hundreds of thousands of files. You can organize your project into groups that fit your workflow, such as data, code, or documentation, and then search across the exact areas you care about. Once you find something, you can open it directly in your editor on the right file and line. Hawkeye also supports editing and focused replace across code and content, which is useful for refactoring or renaming various types of files and making project-wide changes. So, if you're tired of struggling to find things in your project and want a better solution, you can try out Hawkeye for yourself by following the link in the description down below or scanning the QR code on screen now. Thanks again to Hawkeye for sponsoring this portion of the video. In my opinion, splash screens can and should be fun, whether that's making them super flashy and exciting, integrating them into the world the player is about to enter, or just making them an Easter egg toy that they can play with for hours and forget about the game they were booting up in the first place. Games are supposed to be fun, so why not also make your splash screen kind of fun too? Start off with a good vibe for the player. That's why in my game, Cabs of Chaos, from my startup scene, I then load into a simple splash scene with an animation script that controls some of the UI elements and introduces my logo. But then I get to have some fun with it and do this. I'm making a fun, chaotic driving game, so within the first few seconds of booting it up, the player knows it. I really wanted to bring that energy into every aspect of the opening experience, which leads me into the final thing that makes for a good impression. There's nothing inherently fun about making a main menu screen, yet you're going to be making one anyway, so why not make it fun? Again, this is one of the first things that the player is going to interact with for your game, and it's also going to be something that they interact with regularly. So while function should definitely be a priority here, putting some time and effort into making it a pleasant experience will pay off, especially if you focus that effort on something that brings the player into the world and energy of your game. I truly believe that a good menu design is something that will really make your game stand out, because there are unfortunately a lot of just very uninteresting main menus out there from indie developers. And while serviceable is often fine and accepted, why not extend the same love to it that you would the rest of the game? Frankly, it doesn't have to be that interesting to stand out. There are tons of examples of menu screens that have committed to their style, and these are obviously great references, but they're also made by teams that can afford the time and people power to commit so hard. Some simple animation on the UI, a background camera, tweening, and just generally theming for your game's vibes can be enough to make a good impression on first landing. For Cabs with Chaos, I'm trying to capture the vibes of a Saturday morning cartoon, so I've chosen for a sort of comic book theming across the board with my UI, and I jump straight from the splash screen into this title screen and use lots of animations on my elements and effects to get the high energy impact across. Depending on your style of game and genre, this will obviously differ, so I suggest taking a look at some of the examples in your game's genre and seeing what sticks out to you, and maybe trying to emulate a couple of the things that help sell the vibe. And if, for whatever reason, you do need to load in a bunch of complex scenes or run some scripts that would cause some kind of stuttering for loading into your menu, then from your empty scene or splash scene, you can throw up a loading screen and handle this process on your terms, managing the player's experience yourself. These are the first few seconds a player will have to experience your game, so paying attention to these sort of things is important and can sometimes help elevate a player's experience of your game without them even knowing it. And while they wouldn't be able to put their finger on it, the absence of details like this will start to stack up over time. So why set off on the wrong foot? Set yourself, your game, and your players up for success. Hopefully these have been helpful and given you something to think about for your game. Are any of these new to you, or do you have any suggestions for ways to make a great first impression of your own? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to see more videos like this, then consider hitting the subscribe button, as you'll be notified when new videos go live. If you'd like to see more videos from me, then consider checking out one of the ones on screen now. A huge thanks to my Patreons for helping make these videos possible. You can become a member to get videos early and ad-free by heading to patreon.com/GameDevGuide. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.